Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Matt. I am your host, Matt Taylor. Today I'm going to show you how to make mozzarella cheese using powdered milk. A couple weeks ago I did a video on how to make mozzarella cheese with just two ingredients, milk and vinegar. And I had someone ask if I could show how to make it using powdered milk or if it's possible to use powdered milk. And the answer is yes. You can make delicious homemade mozzarella cheese with powdered milk. So this is really cool because some of you might have powdered milk in food storage, or it might just be where you live, the country that you live in. Powdered milk might be more accessible to you than normal milk. Before I move on, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. Let's get started. Down below in the description box, you'll find a list of the ingredients and their amounts. And so I am going to be using dry milk powder. This is really cheap at my supermarket. And then I'm going to use citric acid. And the citric acid, usually it's going to be in the canning section of your supermarket. It's a very common ingredient. You should be able to find that. If not, you can find it online or even at the pharmacy. And we're using the citric acid instead of the white distilled vinegar in this case. And this cheese making process is more of a classic cheese making method as opposed to the two ingredient method that I showed in the other video. And then we are going to be using rennet. And rennet can be found either in the canning section or in my supermarket. They have it below all the jellos. And it's a very, very cheap ingredient to buy. You can also find it online as well. And the rennet is going to really help to develop a nice curd for the cheese. Also, we're going to be using butter because this is a non-fat dry milk, so we're going to incorporate some fat into it with the butter. All right, so I have 1/2 gallon or a 1/2 gallon of filtered water. I'm using filtered water because my tap water tastes gross. And then I have 3 cups of the milk powder. And so we have milk here, the milk powder, and I'm just going to add a little bit to my water here and take a slotted spoon, and I'm just going to stir gingerly. I don't want to stir really hard because I don't want to create any big bubbles or anything. So we're just going to add this milk powder and reconstitute the powder into a liquid milk. Some people will make the milk ahead of time, like a day before, and just keep it in the refrigerator before they want to use it the next day. And that is an option that you can do as well. All right, put the rest of it in there. Again, you're just going to slowly incorporate that powder in there with the slotted spoon. And now at this point, I want to incorporate the butter. And so I have 3/4 of a stick or 6 tablespoons of butter. And I'm going to melt this. I'm just going to do it in the microwave. Burst of 20 seconds or so until it's nice and melted. And then I'm going to take a cup of milk and put it in this container here. About a cup, it doesn't have to be exact. Okay. And now I'm going to heat up the butter and melt it. Now I have the butter melted and ready to go. I also want to heat up this milk a little bit just so it's about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't want this to be cold when I add the warm butter to it. So I'm going to heat this up a little bit as well. All right, I'll give this a test. It's a little warm. I'm going to add in the butter. And now you can use a blender to blend this all together. I'm just going to show you. You can also use a whisk. And we want to mix that in really well. And agitate it and mix the butter and the milk together for about a minute. once I have the butter incorporated with that little bit of milk, I'm going to just slowly incorporate it into the main mixture. Again, just barely stirring a little bit. Don't want to make too many bubbles. Alright, so again, just gently stir. And now we're going to take this over to the stovetop burner and set the burner to medium-low heat and gently bring the heat of the milk up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius. Okay, so we are going to slowly stir and heat up this milk. And it looks like we got it right to about 92 degrees. That is great. And now we can turn off the heat. And once you take it off the heat, we want to add in the citric acid. And so I'm going to add in just shy of a teaspoon of citric acid to 1/4 cup of water. And that is filtered water. I'm going to just take a fork and we'll mix that in just so the citric acid dissolves. And now I'll pour the citric acid in, stirring with the milk. And just give it a stir for about 30 seconds or so. And it's going to start to curdle already on you, which is nice. Okay, and now let's add in the rennet. And we are going to use a 1/2 of a tablet. If you're going to do a whole gallon of milk, use a full tablet. This pot is too small for a gallon. I want to mash up this this tablet a bit. So I'll just use like a fork or like a spoon, or if you have like a mortar or a pestle, you can use that as well. I just use the back of the spoon just to get it. And then I will take another 1/4 cup of water and add it to that rennet tablet. And we'll mix that together. And then we'll pour that in there as well. And again, we'll just keep mixing, come from the sides and go in. See, the curds are already developing, which is really great. And we'll just mix this for about 30 seconds. Okay, and now we're going to cover it and let it sit for 30 minutes to an hour. Some recipes will say even up to 2 hours. So I'm just going to let this sit here again for about 30 minutes to an hour. And once it has set again, 1/2 hour to an hour, it can even go up to 2 hours. It doesn't have to be exact the time. I'm going to remove the lid. And you may or may not have a solid thing of curd on the top, but you want to come in here and cut it. Okay, so let's cut that into squares, about 1 inch wide. That's looking really good. And now we want to take this back over to the stovetop, and we're going to heat it up between 108 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Here we are again over at the stovetop. Now at this point, we're not going to stir it with that slotted spoon. We're just going to kind of twist it like this, the pot, and that will allow that curd to heat up evenly. And you don't have to constantly do that, just every once in a while, just give it a good turn like that. And we'll test it with a thermometer. I really like this thermometer that I'm using. I'll put a link down below where you can grab this one, the Therma Pro. It's a pretty popular one on Amazon. And then you can, like, if you have handles like this, you can lift up the pot and just kind of turn it like that. And you'll see bigger chunks of cheese in there, of the curd, some really nice chunks below that top surface here. It may look different each time you do it. Sometimes this can be a solid thing of curd on top that you'll slice through. Other times it's more solid below it and it's more like crumbly looking on the top. It just depends. Okay, that is good enough. Then I can turn off the heat and we won't be using the stove anymore. And now it's time to separate the cheese curds from the whey. The liquid that you see in there is the whey, and I have a colander with some cheesecloth. You don't have to use cheesecloth. In my other video, I didn't use cheesecloth. That's why I am using it in this video. But really, that's what cheesecloth is for, is to help separate the cheese curd from the whey. And I'm just gonna use my slotted spoon and come in here. Look at that, wow. See those nice big chunks of curd? They developed really nice, and that's where the rennet comes in, is to help develop this really nice curd. Okay, and the liquid that's left, the rest of that liquid is the whey, and you can save the whey. In my other video, I talked about different uses that you can use for the whey. You can save the whey if you like. I'm going to set that aside. And now, here is my curd. And also, I put a sheet pan underneath the colander, just so it catches the liquid. And then we can just pick this up and we'll drain it. And just kind of, what I do is kind of just squeeze at the top. Really want to get a lot of that whey out of there as much as possible. Okay, see how much extra whey was in there? And there's still more, so I'm going to dump this out. Or again, you can save it if you don't want to waste it. And we'll squeeze some more out. Okay, until you were left with this, and I'm going to just take it and pour it into this bowl here. And there'll probably be a little bit more whey in there, and that's okay. We'll get that out as we heat it up and knead the cheese. Now once I've squeezed most of the whey out from the cheesecloth, or also if you just use your hands like I did in the other video, then I have it in this bowl now. We want to heat it up, and we want the cheese to get around 160, 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Couple ways that you can do that. You can put this back in the whey. You can heat the whey up to 175 Fahrenheit and then put the cheese in the whey and warm it up that way and stretch it and knead it. Or just with the microwave, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put this in the microwave for about a minute to start. All right, and then as you can see, more whey has seeped out of the cheese. It's right around 155-ish. And now I'm going to just take this and we're going to begin kneading and stretching the cheese and getting out any leftover excess whey. We'll just pour that out. And I'm just using a spoon here. I'm going to just push it down because it's going to be too hot to handle. And we're going to knead and stretch this cheese. It's going to be really hot, like really hot. But it's important to stretch it because that's what gives it its texture. Yep. I'm going to heat it up a little more. All right. And so it's melted a little more on us, which is really what we want for it to happen. And we can squeeze out more of that. Yeah, look at that. Squeeze out more of that whey. And we can really start stretching this. See that? Kind of push it around. Yeah. Look at that. Awesome. And now I'm going to add a little bit of salt. You can use cheese salt. There's a specific salt called cheese salt. Or you could also use like a flaky sea salt or like a kosher salt. So I'll put some on here. And I'm going to just make sure to knead that in. Knead that in the cheese. Put some on here. We're going to knead that in. And as it cools down, it's going to be harder to stretch. And so I'm going to heat it up one more time. Okay. Ooh, hot, hot, hot. Kind of curl it in as you form it into a ball. And see nice and smooth that is? Nice. There we go, look at that. I'm just kind of cupping it underneath my hands, like that. And there we go, look at how awesome that is. So amazing, nice little cheese ball. Okay, and now we want to cool it down. And so I'm going to put it back in this bowl. Add some water. I'm just going to let it sit in this cool water for about 5-10 minutes and then add some ice and let it cool down for another 5 to 10 minutes. And then you can do the storage. Wrap it in plastic, store it in the fridge, or eat it. On to that step. All right, I have let the cheese chill and I'm going to take it out of the water here. So I'm just going to dry the cheese a little bit with some paper towel. And then we can cut into it. Look at that. Awesome. Mmm. Mmm. Really, really good homemade mozzarella made with powdered milk or milk powder. Now just wrap it in plastic wrap and put it in like Tupperware and store it in your fridge. And then if you want to shred it up, make sure that it's really cold or even freeze it and it'll shred up better and then you can use it for pizza or whatever you need the shredded cheese for. I'm Matt Taylor. This has been another episode of In the Kitchen with Matt. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or requests, put them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thumbs up, down the corner, push it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. Take care. Time for me to dive into this some more. Oh yeah. 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 Mmm.